Welcome to the Cinema Crunch podcast, a podcast where we break down movies with honest reviews and just a little bit of fluff. I'm your host, Gage, and each episode we'll dive into a new film discussing what worked, what didn't, and whether it's worth your time. And today in the studio, I'm joined by George.
Hey, everybody.
Josh.
Hello.
And Chris.
What's going on?
All right, today's movie is 2019's Uncut Gems, starring Adam Sandler, Julia Fox, Lakeith Stanfield, and Idina Menzel. The film was also written and directed by the Safdie brothers, who are also known for Good Time, Daddy Long Legs, and The Curse. Here's a logline for the film. With his debts mounting and angry collectors closing in, a fast-talking New York City jeweler risks everything in the hope of staying aloft and alive. Stick around to the end for a final rating and see if the movie makes the cut.
You want to win by 1 point or fucking 30 points, KG? Right? I see you out there when the fucking stadium's all booing you. You're 30 up, you're still going full tilt. Let's see what makes.
All right, so this was my pick. Definitely a favorite movie from me. I had already seen it right around when it came out. I just heard all this really great hype about it. And I was like, oh, New York City, Adam Sandler, basketball, jeweler where he's kind of going crazy. I was like, this is right up my alley. It's exactly what I want to see. And I was not disappointed. I remember the first time seeing this. It was another like late night movie. It was probably like 10 or 11 when I started it. And by the end of the movie, my heart was racing so fast. I think when I looked down at my watch, it was at like 115. My heart rate was at 115 BPM just by watching this movie. It drove me insane. I don't know if you guys had a similar experience your first time watching it.
Yeah, actually, there was one day I watched it randomly, like 2 p.m. on a Saturday, and I had an iced coffee, and I proceeded to just have a panic attack on my bedroom floor. And I mean, I'd seen the movie before too, so it's not like anything surprising was happening. But yeah, I was just like laying on the floor, like hyperventilating after watching it for sure.
What do you think of that intro? I think the intro where it gives the backstory of the Ethiopian Jews and the gem being found. Like I was watching, I was like, this is crazy.
Honestly, I was more intrigued with the rectal cam.
Oh yeah,
that was insane.
How it just morphs from being inside of the gem and everything.
Yeah,
and you're clearly like, wait, this is now a human being. What's going on?
Yeah, the cinematography is definitely very on point in this film.
I would agree. I think it's almost like, I wouldn't call it a masterclass necessarily, but I think it's a really great example of how to shoot modern movies. Right?
Yeah,
I think it uses a lot of really great tricks and tropes, especially that one scene where Adam Sandler is walking into one of the shops in the Diamond District, and the camera just starts really wide, and then it's getting real tight, and then he's talking. You can hear the audio, and you just feel like, okay, this is like modern, and obviously it's not anything brand new, but I feel like they did it in such a great way.
Yeah, it's a weird premise, the way that they had set it up with like starting it in Ethiopia and like finding the rock, where I was like, oh, so it's like it's a movie that has like powers. Like this rock has powers.
I thought it was gonna be supernatural.
I thought it was gonna be supernatural, and then it kind of
is.
It kind of doubles back on it a little bit, but okay. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't. It's not really about the rock.
What do you think it's about?
I don't know. Well,
I think it's about a lot of things. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a little like misdirection. At least that's how I experienced it.
Right.
Where it's like, you think that these like superpowers are coming from a rock. Kevin Garnett wasn't just dropping dimes beforehand, right?
Right.
I don't know. I think that is all kind of like fugazi in a sense, where it's like it's just a misdirection for the greater the greater scene that is going on in the movie.
That makes sense. And I think honestly, it coming from the Safdie brothers, they're really great at that. And I think this is probably a really good example of them doing that. Another thing I thought was awesome was the music. And I think the music, it really starts to kick in at that opening scene with the Ethiopian miners, and then it goes into the opal, and then, as it's transitioning into the, what's the exam called?
Oh, prostate exam.
As it's going into the prostate exam, like that music is kicking in. It's almost like it's very synthy. It's almost kind of like very 80s wise, but like the music selection just continues that throughout the entire film, which I thought was awesome.
Is it a prostate exam or is it a colonoscopy?
Colonoscopy.
Yeah, because they had the camera in there, right?
You're right.
Which is where we were.
Yeah.
We were in you, buddy.
We were in you.
But yeah, big fat synth sounds in this movie.
Yeah, what was it? One O Tricks Point Never did the soundtrack?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. Because I believe he did Good Time too, but don't quote me on that.
That would make sense.
The Weeknd's in this movie.
He is.
The Weeknd is in this movie.
Kevin Garnett is in this movie too.
So
Crazy.
something I didn't pick up on the movie Uncut Gems. One of the main factors of the movie, the guy's last name is Garnett.
Wait.
They say that in the movie, George.
But that's what I'm saying. Isn't that a gem? A
Yeah.
type of gem?
Yeah.
And then the opal, big operating force here. That's another kind of gem. You were talking about gems not being significant earlier. You're like,
I didn't pick up on that actually.
Really?
No, I didn't.
Adam Sandler, I think, says it to him at one point in the movie. But
he's super drawn into it. So when they're at the store, he's looking at it. He's like, man, I feel like I could fly when I got this thing in my hand. And he breaks through the glass. He does a fantastic game afterwards. And then he plays like absolute dog shit afterwards when you don't have the gem.
Yeah. So I think, Josh, you were talking about supernatural earlier. Like, obviously, at the end of the day, it's not actually supernatural. I don't think they're leading you to believe that it's actually supernatural, but just his wanting to be the best, right? It's kind of what Adam Sandler's speech is about towards the end. Like, KG is asking him, like, why do you do this? Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, why would you give the Ethiopians $100,000 when you knew the opal, or at least thought the opal was worth $1 million? And he's like, because I don't want to win by a point. I want to win by 30 points. And I think that whole thing also kind of looped into where KG's mystical powers are coming from, right? He wants to win that bad. He just thinks he needs this opal to do it, but he could do it no matter what. But this is just kind of like what he thinks he needs to actually get there.
I wanted to ask about the panic attack. There's a few points in the movie where I'm equally as stressed as Adam Sandler there.
Right.
Especially when he's watching his kid at the recital.
Yeah.
He has the mob guys in the back just keep an eye on him. He's like, guys, this is fucked up. This is my kid's thing. What are you doing here? Where was your peak stress level at?
I'm trying to think, because now that I think of it, probably watching the whole movie, when he gets put in the trunk and he's like naked and he has to come out, like that is probably peak stress. But I think it was the final game that really got me, because it's just everything is going on. Julia Fox is in the casino. He's at the jeweler. It was insane, and that's why I think I turned it off, and then I just laid down and I was just hyperventilating.
I was like, I need a second to like breathe for this.
Yeah.
And this guy's living it in the moment. I think that was definitely my most stressful thing too, is when he gets the money to pay back Armin, right? He gets $165,000 he owes, which also I want to ask you guys what you thought that he was his family member, because that's kind of like a reveal halfway through the movie. But he gets the money to pay him back. He can save his own life, and he'll still have $65,000 on top of it to go place this bet where he would still win a bunch of money. And that was what drove me the most insane. I'm screaming at the TV and I'm like, why are you doing what you're doing? And I think, this has kind of been brought up a few times if you watch other reviews of the movie, that he's just addicted to it, right? Like he has to win by those 30 points. He has to just go balls to the wall, spend everything, risk everything. And he's addicted to that feeling of risking it and then winning big, which he does at least twice in the movie.
Yeah, that's what gets him high.
He does it with his family too.
Mm-hmm.
He gambles between him and his wife, like, maybe we'll go to get a divorce, we'll wait next summer. The kids are not really exactly in on it, but he's also was it Julie at the store he's hooking up with.
Mm-hmm.
I felt for him at the Weeknd concert when he walked in the bathroom. Like, I feel like I react the same way. No matter what she was saying, like, I don't want to look at you. I'm getting in this cab. I'll see you in the morning. Get out my face.
Yeah. And he just went crazy right there on the sidewalk and broke up with her and just made her go home.
And then she thugged it out for him. I respect her for it.
Yeah.
She's my favorite character.
Oh, yeah. And she wins big time in the end.
Exactly.
She gets the money and gets out. But what did you think of the reveal that Armin was his family member? And that also, in the family, he was not very well respected.
So they have dinner together. And that's kind of where you make contact, like, oh, they are related. So he's sitting there across the table. He won't even light his cigarette for him. He's like, come on, man, we're family. He's like, I don't want to talk about this. Same deal. They just shut each other off.
Yeah.
And then, at the end of there, I felt like they kind of had a resolution as a family. Even though it didn't have the best outcome for both of them, they were almost on the same playing field.
They were. He was kind of like surprised. He's like, wow, he did it. He won the 1.2 million. Like, this is awesome. Like, okay, we just made all this money. And those guys were just like, we cannot deal with this family anymore. Like, we're done. And they just shot them both.
Do you guys think Kevin Garnett's a good actor?
I was so surprised by how well he did in that speech towards the end.
Yeah.
Where Adam Sandler is giving like his monologue, which is also an amazing speech. And KG, he's like, let me talk to you for a minute. And he he rails into him about like, why are you doing this? You've been screwing me over since I first met you. Like, why is this? And like, I'm like, this is a basketball player who's also been retired for like quite a few years, I think, by the point that they were shooting it. Why is he this good? This is kind of crazy, actually.
Yeah, no, I feel like he was pretty good. I feel like in the beginning, and I don't know how they shot it, right? So I have no idea when they shot each scene. But it felt like in the beginning, it seemed like he was kind of warming up into it, or they had him really in like two modes, which was like Kevin Garnett looking around and being chill, or like Kevin Garnett angry. And then towards the end, it seemed like they actually started bringing his character out. But I don't know if they wrote the script like that or that's just how it came off to me. But it was really weird seeing him in that role. Also, I've never seen Garnett like in like high resolution on my screen. You know, you watch basketball as a kid, and it was like on like CCTV, like, you know, like the old tube televisions.
There's no fuzz to you.
Yeah, I know, right? Like you're not this soft little fuzzy guy on my TV anymore. You're high resolution and really tall and scary.
So Lakeith Stanfield, he was playing, is it Damani?
Yeah.
I feel bad I never remember his name. He was great in other movies, but he really drove the plot along with the Opal here with Garnett. He was always like the middleman. Let me get you in the club here. I'm going to bring people over to you. And the fake Rolexes that he was pushing, they kept on coming. It felt like it was almost a joke at one point. He's like, you gave me a fake Rolex. I don't know what to tell you. I think his acting, too, I don't see him in enough movies. It was my first time watching Uncut Gems. I saw Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah.
I like every movie this guy's been in.
Yeah, he's great. No, and he did a great job in this movie as well. I think a lot of the, all the actors and actresses were kind of, maybe not necessarily top of their game, but they were giving it their all. They were putting it in, right? This was kind of one of the earlier, like, A24, Safdie Brothers, kind of like bigger movie, right? Like this had a real budget. This had a real, studio behind it. They were really pushing it. Obviously, it wasn't like a first or a really early A24, but it was like just as like their name was kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I really feel like that everyone that was in it was like, no, like we love this project and we're gonna give it our all. And like we're really gonna try. They had a lot of faces in this movie, and like I said, I think everyone did a really great job. I want to get our final Letterboxd reviews from everyone around the room. I'll go first. Like I said, this is kind of a classic for me. This is one that I like to return to whenever I'm trying to give myself a heart attack or really just psych myself out. And I really think that everything about this movie, I just love it. I can't really fault it in too many places. So for that, I'm going to give it a 5. George?
I'm going to give it a 5 as well. I was not bored once watching this movie, the transition from scene to scene. The only time it slowed down was him going to bed looking through a window there.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, your heart's pumping. It's not like an adrenaline rush like an action movie. It's just you're constantly stressed out with this man along for the ride the whole time. 5 stars for me. I'm watching it again.
Awesome. Josh?
I'm going to say a 4 for it. The other Safdie Brothers project, Good Times, I think had a lot of the same exact themes, but I enjoyed them more in the way they presented them there, especially in like that anxiety-inducing sense. But it was still a fantastic movie.
Awesome. Chris?
I'm going to give it a 4.5. I would give it a 5, but I'm not a gambler myself. And I feel like I'm missing that 0.5 of being a degenerate gambler to fully understand Adam Sandler. But it's great. I love it. It's one of the best Safdie films in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, hopefully maybe we'll rewatch this in a couple of years and maybe you'll get a gambling addiction by then and we'll get that full 5.0 out of you.
Hopefully.
But that'll bring it to an average of a 4.6. So we're actually going to give it a 4.5 as the show rating. So thanks for tuning in to Cinema Crunch. If you enjoyed today's review, don't forget to subscribe to our show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Want to join the conversation? Follow us on social media by searching @CinemaCrunchPod or following the link in the show notes and tell us what movie we should review next. Don't wait, subscribe now and never miss an episode of the Cinema Crunch podcast.